I earned $483 driving last Saturday, September 6th, and I want to break it all down for you here. I earned $437 with Uber and $47 through Lyft, but that $6 ride actually was on another day, so $483 is the total for that. Hey, my name is Levi Spires. I'm an Uber driver. In my previous life, I was an accountant. I've done 14,000 trips, almost all with Uber, over the last 5.5 years here in Syracuse, New York, and I drive a Tesla Model Y. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I break all of this calculation down. And in fact, I'm going to show you how you can do it yourself, because at tipyouintheapp.com, my website, I created a calculator just for you. So there's a link in the description. Now let's take a look at my last 5 Saturdays. So here's this Saturday. Here is the 30th of August, the 23rd of August, the 16th of August, and the 9th of August. I work almost every Saturday. Sometimes I work more than others. Sometimes I make good money. Here's 33, here's 24. That wasn't so good. 42, that was the first weekend with the students back, so that was pretty good. 32 and 34 was what I made. 437 being online 2 hours and 45 minutes. But that's not really how I calculate my earnings. Let's break it down even more. My earnings per hour. So again, here's the 483. I was online 15 hours a minute, and some of that was both Lyft and Uber. I was online at the same time. So that's not a really good way to look at it. And I don't like active time because I'm away from my home a long period of time. So I left my house at 2:50 in the morning. It was really early. So 2:50 in the morning is when I left, and I got home at 6:42 p.m. So 15 hours and 52 minutes I was out of my house. And 11 of those hours, I was actually either going to pick up a passenger, or I had a passenger in my car, for a utilization rate of 71%. That gives me my earnings per hour. My active time was 43.14. It's what I made every hour when a passenger is in my car. Now let's take a look at cash flow. 483.13 cents is what was deposited into my account. I did spend $15.32 supercharging, and you can see these superchargers here. And I spent another $3.90 supercharging. And then I did get a Red Bull for $2.74. My actual cash flow, I did have some tips for the people that wash my car, but that was cash out of my wallet, so I didn't really calculate that here. So $4.61 and 17 cents. $461.17 is the cash that I actually ended up with. Yes, I do eat lunch and things like that, but I make it at home. My cash per hour was $29.07. But that's not really profitability. I drove a car. There's some costs. So let's calculate my miles. Now, I calculate my miles using Mile IQ. There is a link in the description for Mile IQ. I super recommend it. It's great. It's easy. As long as you have your phone in your pocket or in your car or with you where you're driving, it starts to track all of the trips. And so you can see it tracked all the trips. I selected the 19 trips I took that day. It calculated 368.2 miles. So there's my 368.2. So now I can go ahead and say, well, 483 is what I earned. I drove 368 miles, so I earned $1.31 for every mile that I drove. That could be good, that could be bad, but that's what it is. But again, that's not really calculating costs. What were my costs? For costs, I have 3: fuel, depreciation, and maintenance. Now, fuel is a little bit complicated because I have a Tesla and I pay different rates for fuel. Basically, a kilowatt hour is like a gallon of gas to some extent. I started the day with 67, basically a full tank. I charged $39 or 39 kilowatt hours one time, then 10 another. So my total charges were 116. I got home with 3.4, basically 5% battery left. So I used 113 kilowatt hours. 49 of those were supercharged at 39 cents per kilowatt hour. I spent 26 minutes charging that one time. Totaled $19 in supercharging costs. My home charge was 63 kilowatt hours at 14 cents per kilowatt hour. So my home cost was $8.94. I spent $28.17 on fuel. So my cost per mile was 8 cents. Maintenance is a little bit different. Again, it's a Tesla, but it's pretty simple methodology. You just basically say, how much money am I going to spend on maintenance per transaction? What is the mile interval of that transaction? So tires, I'm going to spend $1,200 on tires. Electric cars are expensive when it comes to tires. So my maintenance per mile is 2 cents for tires. Brakes are almost free. Battery, if I had to replace the battery, I know a lot of people that hate EVs think you got to replace the battery. So I am estimating $5,000 one time, somewhere in that 300,000 miles of the life of the vehicle, 2 cents per mile. Other costs would be things like just whatever, 1 cent. So it ends up being about 5 cents per mile for maintenance. There's that. Now depreciation, probably the biggest expense that very few drivers actually calculate. My car cost after taxes, registration, financing, everything was $44,000. The salvage value at 300,000 miles, I expect to get $500 for it. So that car is going to depreciate $43,500 over 300,000 miles. That gives me a depreciation of 15 cents per mile. A car may last longer than 300,000 miles, and I may get more for it in salvage. This is just only an estimate, but I can calculate that out and break it all down to look like this. My revenue was $483, fuel's $28, $17 for maintenance, depreciation. So my variable cost, the total of variable costs was $183 or $100.83. So $382.30 is my variable costs, but I still had other costs. Let's talk about taxes. How do you calculate taxes? All right, so tax deduction. The federal rate is 70 cents per mile. That is the tax deduction rate. So if I take the miles that I drove and multiply it by 70 cents, it gives me a tax deduction of $257. So my taxable income is the $483 minus the tax deduction, gives me $225.39, gives me a tax rate of 15% is what I'm estimating at. So $33.81 is my estimated taxes. So now I can look again here. 483 minus my variable costs minus my estimated taxes gives me $348.49 in gross margin. But that's still not all of my expenses. And I hope you're tracking all of your expenses. Let's talk about fixed costs. What are my fixed costs? These are costs that I have whether I drive a car or not. These are costs that I incur just by being an Uber driver. Now, these are not necessarily tax deductions. They may or may not be. That's not the point. The point is to make sure that I accurately account for everything. Tesla full self-drive. I pay $4.20 every day to have the car drive itself. I love it. I recommend it, especially if you're going to do a lot of long miles. A Delta Sonic car wash subscription, I pay $3.24 per day for that. That's interior and exterior. My cell phone, $2.66. Squeaky Clean, another car wash subscription. I like to keep my car cleaned. So that's basically a little over $5 in car washes, not including tips. Planet Fitness. I joined Planet Fitness, not necessarily for exercise, but as a home away from home. I don't live near where I Uber drive. And so I go to Planet Fitness for the restroom. They have massage chairs that I get on there and walk. It's really good. Panera Bread is where I have a drink subscription. I didn't spend a lot of money on drinks except for that one Red Bull. And that's because I go to Panera Bread and get unlimited drinks for 60 cents a day. And my Tesla Premium, which is different than FSD, that is so I can have Apple CarPlay and things like that. So $14.05 in fixed costs. Let's go back up to that profit and loss statement. Here we go. 483 minus 100 minus 33 minus 14. 334 is now my profitability. It says gross margin, but we're going to change that to profit. Boom. You can break it all down. Now you can see I'm making $21 an hour after all of my expenses. Let's take a look at the trips. What are the trips that I took? What are the winners and losers? Let's take a look at it this way. These are all of my trips. I did 29 trips. I'm going to break each one of them. Well, I'm not going to break each one down, but I'll break them down for you to some extent. I had some good ones and bad ones. Let's talk about these trips. A, B, C, and D. What did I do? I live in the village of Cazenovia, which is about 30 miles from Syracuse. There are 0 Uber trips here. I could turn the app on all day and I might get one ride. So I had to get to Syracuse to do some rides. It's about 30 miles. So in the morning, my first trip was a reserved trip at 3:29 a.m. It didn't pay that well, but it got me from my house to Syracuse getting paid, which is great. Then I took a reservation to get me down to Ithaca. I knew Ithaca would be profitable on Saturday morning, so I got lucky. There was an Uber reservation, trip number B. It didn't pay that well, but I didn't have to deadhead from Syracuse to Ithaca. I got to drive down to Ithaca, get paid for it, and I got to spend the morning or almost the entire day down in Ithaca. Then, as the day was ending, there was an airport ride from Ithaca. It didn't pay that well. Back to Syracuse. And then I got to Syracuse. I spent a good hour getting my car washed, sitting parked, not getting any rides. I was actually at the airport hanging out. I did get one last ride. It's a woman I've given a ride to 3 different times now, back to a village further south of Cazenovia. It did not pay well, but I knew what I was getting into. She's a good tipper. So I took that trip back home. And so I used low-paying, long trips to position myself where I wanted to be in Ithaca and Syracuse during the day. Let's break down the trips a little bit more. Here, you're going to see all the trips, what I earned, the tip. Now, I'm going to use the word bonus, but I do qualify as a Tesla driver with Uber to get what's called the EV bonus. The EV bonus is 75 cents per trip. So what does that mean? That means that once I hit 200 trips, I get a $150 bonus. I'm going to recognize that revenue today, even though I'm not getting paid that today. So my recognized revenue for each trip is right here. How many miles I drove, how long the trip was, the cost, the margin, and the margin per hour. I want to show you this estimate right here. These are all of my trips and how much I got paid per hour. Now, and this is after expenses. You notice my bigger profitability trips were right here. And as the day went on, it got less profitable. And that's a really important thing to analyze. Now let's take a look at these trips here. Which trip did I get recognized the most revenue descending right here? I got paid $61.68 on this one long trip, but my margin per hour was only 38 cents, even including a tip. That was a positioning trip for me. Same thing with this particular trip. This was the trip home. I didn't get paid that much per hour after expenses, but it got me home, so I didn't have to deadhead home, which is great. These are some low-paying trips. My lowest paying trip was this Lyft. I only made $5.02. I only made $27 an hour after expenses. It was a horrible trip, and I don't recommend that on a regular basis. Let's take a look at my margin. Which trip did I get paid most margin-wise? It's obviously the longest trip, but that's not the best way to look at a trip. The best way to look at a trip is how much did you make after your expenses? This trip was just a 4-minute trip, 0.87 miles. I recognized $18.84 in revenue. I only had 23 cents in costs. That's $273.68 per active hour. That's with the passenger in the vehicle. UberX Surge, another one, $227, $177, $118. My lowest paying trips were these couple of short ones, but of course some of these longer ones too. So the worst paying trips are basically kind of either like this middle ground where there's no surge, or it's a long trip. Now, here's another way to look at it though. Let's take a look at the times. If you broke everything down by 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m. throughout the day, the trips that I took, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. In fact, at 3 p.m., I didn't even get a single ride. Again, that was when I was back up at Syracuse, getting the car washed, sitting at the airport, hoping to get a ride. I didn't even get offered a ride that I thought was good. I was waiting on a trip to get me home, hopefully, and I did. I got lucky. If I were to look at my day like this is when I made the most amount of money. 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m. That was my most profitable time. This 2 p.m. looks really good, but some of that time actually went over to 3 o'clock because that trip was 70 some odd minutes, so it kind of bleeds over to here. I would take this in half and say it was kind of like right around here. And now this is really interesting. Uber told me this was when demand was lowest, and this is when they wanted me to drive. This is like the time to drive. But I made most of my money here. Why is that? That's because Uber is talking about demand, when passengers want rides. But demand is only one part of the equation. Supply is the other part, supply of drivers. There aren't that many drivers online at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. So even though demand is low, the supply is even lower. And that's why I was able to get some surges and make money during that time. I loaded all of my data into ChatGPT and had it analyze everything. And this is what it said. The best hours for profit were 8, 7, 5, 9, 3 a.m. That's when I made the most amount of money per hour. The weakest hours were 10 to 12, midday, 1 to 2. Again, when you looked at those numbers, that's when I made the least amount of money. Here's a couple of ride types they recommended. UberX Surge, UberX Priority Surge, reservations to the airport. These are the trips that paid the most. Whereas these trips right here, Lyft, non-UberX, Surge, got paid the least. Look at my best paying trips. UberX Surge, the Priority Surge. What does that really mean? To look for surges. They don't happen that often, but when they do, to maximize your revenue. Focus on early mornings, 5 to 9. There's short surge rides. It's really great. Highest margin per hour, my data set. Except UberX Surge and UberX Priority Surge whenever possible, especially under 3 miles. So short surge rides, especially with the priority, really, really, really good. Keep Lyft work, mostly to reserved airport. Here in Syracuse, Ithaca, Binghamton, where I drive, Central New York, Lyft just doesn't pay that well. Avoid midday long non-surge rides. Now, I did take a couple of midday long non-surge rides. They were to get me to the locations I wanted to be. You can't look at every single trip and say, I have to make X dollar amount. Sometimes we take trips to pre-position ourselves for the next ride. And then stack morning reservations. And that's kind of what I do. I drive a lot in the morning with reservations. So let's do my final analysis here. This is what, as I promised, let's break everything down. So $483 is what I earned. I'm recognizing another $19.50. So my total revenue was $5.02. Fuel, maintenance, depreciation, $100 in variable costs. I had taxes, FSD, etc., another $47 in costs. So my profitability for the day was $353. I had deposited $483. I spent $21. My recognized costs were the $126. So $334.44 is what was transferred to my bank account. Now let me explain this. I get money into my Uber account. I keep that money separate. It's like a business. I only withdraw or pay myself or transfer money of $334 to pay whatever I want. Basically pay for things like my house, etc. So I did not take that 43 and spend it all. I saved a lot of it for future costs. Now, results. 15 hours, 52 minutes out of my house, 368 miles. I took 29 trips, 12 tips, 9 surges, 4 were priority, 3 reservations. I made $11.53 for every single trip, 91 cents per hour profitability, at $21.08 an hour, which is $43 or $43,000 a year, which is less than the median household income. The average household income in Syracuse should be $65,000. So it's not enough to live on. So I had to work almost 16 hours and it wasn't that good. And I made $21 an hour. The 43 made me feel good. The reality is at $21 an hour, it's not really that good. What are your thoughts? Go to the website, check out Mile IQ, calculate your own earnings. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.